Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today I have an art journal process video for you. I am almost complete with my Dina Wakley mixed media journal. It's been a couple years in the making, so I'm super excited to be close to the finish. Today I'll be journaling on this kind of double page spread right here. I've pulled out my Dina Wakley Media Collage Collective. So this is just a bunch of her artwork pulled together, and I love looking through this for collage pieces and for things that inspire me. So I'm excited to look through this and pick out some elements to use on my page today. I'll be doing a little bit of mixed media work as well. I will end up listing everything and linking it down below that I use on my page. Otherwise, I'll put you guys on fast forward. Let's go. All right, so I know that you've already seen the title of this particular art journal entry, so you know what my inspiration was for the entry. I love the Olympic Games. I love the Summer Olympics. I love the Winter Olympics. I love all of the Olympics. I love the pageantry. I love the stories of the athletes that have worked so hard for this chance. I love the athletes that win and the athletes that are so thankful just to be there. I am all about the Olympics, and it is what is going to be playing in my craft room 24/7 for the next couple of weeks while it is going on. And I found the piece in the Dina Wakley Collage Collective that had the colors of the Olympic rings in it. It had the red and the blue and the black, and then I found the sunburst piece. And so I liked this kind of man-looking piece. It could be a woman, it could be either, but just that it was like representing all the colors of the Olympics. So here we go. We're doing the Olympic themed page. I'm going to, of course, add Olympic rings. Yes, I know the Olympic rings do not hook together in this way, but we are doing it art journal style, and I can hook them together in any way I want. We have our 5 Olympic rings that are representative of the continents that participate in the Olympics. And in case you're wondering, because my kids and I had to look it up, North America and South America are included in one color of the Olympic rings because they're not separated for Olympic ring purposes, I guess. So you have the Americas, and then Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia. I have pulled out my distress crayons. These are an oldie but a goodie. I do not use these very often, but I liked the nice bold colors for the rings, so I thought that they would be fun to use. I did not have a black, so I did have to use my Neocolor 2 black crayon. It's a water-soluble crayon, just like the distress ones are, so I thought it would work pretty well. I like how the crayons are coloring on top of this pressed paper. It's not a smooth paper at all, and so you're definitely seeing all of the texture that's in the paper. And I'm just going to add water and use my finger and smear, kind of get the color moving. These are going to be abstract a little bit. You're going to be able to tell they're Olympic rings. I mean, they're a pretty identifiable symbol, but they don't have to be perfect in my opinion. And I like that the colors are bleeding into each other. I think it's so cool. I do spend a lot of this art journal entry kind of going back and forth between drying it just a little bit and then adding more water. With the distress crayons, you can reactivate it. Like, you don't have to just do it once. Neocolors tend to dry and be done once they've been activated, but with the distress crayons, you can do it over and over again. And you can see it's kind of looking a hot mess right now. Like, I was a little bit nervous because, of course, all the colors are bleeding into each other, and red and green do not blend together well, but it turns out pretty cool in the end, so hang on. Don't abandon me yet and think that I'm making a ginormous mess. I am making a ginormous mess, but I promise it's all going to have purpose and it's all going to look cool in the end. All right, so I'm just adding water a little bit as I go. Of course, the Neocolor reacts a little bit differently. It doesn't really need my finger to do much. It's going to react right away. Distress crayons get wet. They move with water, but they really move better once you're forcing the movement, if that makes sense. So either with a brush, with a finger, with a paper towel, whatever you are doing. Okay, so I got my person right here, and I think I want them with this particular art journal with the different pages in it. I like when I have a piece that unifies the two sides, like it's on both sides. So I'm gonna take my person and I'm going to cut them in half. I'm gonna use my paper trimmer because I do want it to be a perfectly straight line. You know me, I don't always use the paper trimmer. I generally just like to eyeball it, but I did want it to be a straight line. I have my craft glue ready to go. I used this instead of adhesive tape because I think it'll be a stronger hold in the end. So I'm putting plenty of glue down so that it adheres strongly on this side, and then I will glue down my other half of my person on the other side. I cut it in half because I don't want it to get messed up when I close the book. And other times when I've just taken a piece and put it over that gutter and just planned on folding it, it just hasn't ended super well. So I went ahead and planned ahead, cut it apart so that it will be able to close and open more easily. Now is the point where we are hitting the experimental part of this video. Yes, I'm taking distress crayons and I'm coloring them onto denim. What will happen? I don't know. We're all going to find out together. So I wet it down because it's denim. It soaks in really well. So I use a ton of water. I like what happens with the blue. I don't like what happens with the yellow. You can still see some of the color marks. I tried to use my finger to blend it out. It didn't work. I was getting frustrated, so I moved over to the other side of the page where it's a bit more predictable because it is paper, even if it's pressed paper. I'm using the other colors of the rings. If you notice, I'm trying to follow the pattern of the rings, and then adding water over here on the right side. And of course, that blends just a little bit more predictably. I wanted to be careful to not overdo it with the red and the black because I don't want them to overtake the rings. And I'm bringing the black a little bit more to the left. Now, I'm like, I'll go back to the yellow, add a little bit more, and maybe that will mix. Something about the yellow did not want to blend out. I don't know what it is with that particular color. So then I had to go with it. I'm like, well, if those little curly lines, the sketchy lines aren't going to blend out, then I'm going to add sketchy lines all over the place. And that's what I do. So I pull out my black Neocolor 2 crayon and I'm adding sketchy lines all around my person. They already had sketchy lines around this person, but this brings it a little bit more into my art journal entry. I'm adding a little bit of water over those lines just so they're not so sharp and they bleed just a little bit. Drying and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So I have all of these sketchy lines on the left. I have sketchy lines around my person and it's looking pretty smooth over there on the right, which makes it a little bit odd looking to me. So I know that I still have a job ahead of me to kind of unite these two pages together. So here I go. We're going to just do sketchy lines. I'm not going to add a ton of water. We're just going to be Scribble City all around here and bring it all together through the scribbling. And I think that that does work a little bit. It definitely helps. It has kind of a more unified feeling to it. It's not perfect, but at this point I'm like, okay, that's definitely a step forward. I'm making sure it's as dry as possible before I move on to my next step. So my next attempt to unify the two sides will be through shapes. This is a stencil that I actually made myself on my Cricut. I'll try to link that video. I have a video about it. And I am using Distress Oxide spray through the stencil to get these triangles. And I will use that on all of the sides. It works super nicely. I have to wash it off in between so that I'm not like mixing all the different shapes and colors and things. But I'm using it all to kind of point to my person. All my triangles are kind of serving as arrows that are pointing to the person up here. I'm really sparing with the red because I don't want it to go too crazy. Same with the black. I don't want a ton of that particular color because I don't want it to take over. So that I think works. Like it covers up some of my unsuccessful Distress Oxide and brings in that unifying shape. All right, so I'm about to glue down my sunburst and then I look at the back and you guys, I like I thought I was going to use the part with the red on it, but now I think I want to use the other side. So I go ahead and just go for it. It wasn't what I was planning, but I still get the sunburst shape. I just happen to like the coloring on the other side more. So I will take that. I used plenty of glue so that it would stay down. I'll stick that down. I'll end up trimming right here where that sunburst kind of goes over the edge. I do decide to go ahead and cut it just like the person, just so that I won't run into that folding issue that I have in previous pages. So I cut and then glue both of those pieces down, and then I will add these sketchy black lines with my Neo color to crayon all around the edges. And again, that's just something I'm going to continue through this whole piece. When you're using paper pieces like this, do something that incorporates them. You don't just put them on top of each other or on top of your spread. Do something that makes it unique to your spread. And for me, that's adding the increased amount of sketchy lines. If I'm being 100% honest, I wish I had kind of left this art journal page alone, but sometimes I don't know when to stop, and I thought that I wanted to add the phrase, "the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat." I think that that's something that's intriguing to me about the Olympics. And so I start writing it in pencil, and then I come back with micron pen to write it, and it doesn't go well, mostly because I'm impatient and I did not let this dry completely. If I had let this dry completely, then this would have gone a little bit better, but it doesn't. So you can see it's very uneven, and my solution to that is to use my acrylograph pen to come over the top, which at first works great, but then it hits the wet part and bleeds like crazy, and I'm left with a bit of a hot mess. So I'm not totally sure what to do. It doesn't look good. It's over top of the rings. I'm drying it and trying to figure out what I can possibly do to fix the word thrill. And you know what? In art journaling, sometimes mistakes happen, and I'm just going to cover it up. That was my solution. So I'm going to tear a piece of this paper that'll be skinny and that will cover up that particular area. And yes, it does cover up a little bit of the rings, but I'm going to bring it over here. I'm still going to use my fun phrase because I still like the phrase, "the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat," still using my acrylograph pen, but it works much better on a dry surface. So adding that phrase in with just my handwriting, because my handwriting, truthfully, maybe a little sketchy as well. So adding that in, and then I'm just going to cover up the writing I don't like, because something I've learned through art journaling is just don't stop until you like it. So I didn't like it, so we're going to add this right on top using, again, some liquid adhesive just so that's a nice strong bond. Putting that over the top, and that looks much better, but I'm not sure about the balance of the whole page. I add the black lines just like I have with every other paper element because I want it to be cohesive. So bringing that in, but it feels a little unbalanced to me. It feels a little bit heavy on that side, and so I decide I need to do something that adds a little bit of weight over to the left side. So I'm looking at that same paper, and I'm just going to kind of add a random piece of paper. At first, I thought that I would add a title over here, but I didn't really want a title on this page. I think it kind of speaks for itself, and I liked the quote I had. So I'm just going to use this piece, and it brings a little bit of weight over to that side, a little bit more balance. And once it's down and I add the lines, I also decide that I need one more strip of paper just so that it is a grouping of 3. So the sunburst I'm not counting. These are just going to be my strips of paper. I'm going to add another strip over underneath the sunburst, and that will bring the balanced feel that I was looking for. I'm a little nervous that my rings were fading a little bit, so I decided to come back with the distressed crayon and just add a little more oomph to them, a little bit more thickness so that they were jumping off from the page just a bit more, including the black. And then the green and yellow are a little bit tricky because having them right next to each other was too easy to mix the colors, in my opinion. Yellow is so hard. Yellow, I felt like, was picking up all of the colors. Overall, I am super pleased with how this spread came out. I'm super excited about the Olympics. Let me know below if you are a big Olympics fan. I like all the sports. Of course, I'm looking forward to gymnastics. I also really like soccer, and I like watching basketball. I like all the things. I will be watching all of the different sports for 24 hours a day during the Olympics. So let me know below if you're excited and what your favorite sports to watch are. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. I have linked all of the supplies I used down below in the description box. Heads up, some of those are affiliate links. They do not cost you anymore, but they do go a long way to supporting this channel. And a really special shout out to my Scrappy YouTube members. Thank you so much for all of your support. If you're interested in finding out about Scrappy YouTube membership and some of the perks that they receive as members, then make sure to click the join button or check the link in the description box below. All right, I hope you have a fabulous day, and as always, keep it creative.